name's Ben Gamo. I am Chief Technology Officer here at W3. My background is in cybersecurity. Got a bachelor's degree from the University of Akron in computer information systems with a focus in cybersecurity. So my role at W3 is really just securing our data, securing our clients' data, securing your data from any cyber attacks or any cyber criminals. So kind of the agenda for what we're going to be going over today. We're going to be defining what cybercrime, cybersecurity are, explain the various types of cyber attacks, and describe how these attacks are relevant and how they can attack you individually. And then we're going to detail what social engineering and email phishing are, which is some of the most common types of cyber attacks these days. And then we're going to show you how to identify one, what you can do when you receive a phishing email. And then we're going to do a cool little social engineering demonstration that I'm pretty excited for. And then we're going to go over how you can protect yourself, how W3 can protect yourself, and then answer any questions you guys may have at the end. Just a definition of cybercrime here. It encompasses a wide range of criminal activities such as hacking, identity theft, phishing scams, ransomware attacks, online harassment, and much, much more. The biggest goal of cyber criminals is to exploit vulnerabilities in any digital systems, mostly for financial gain, to cause harm, or just to authorize or to access any unauthorized data that they shouldn't have access to. Kind of the reverse of that is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is just a range of technologies, processes, policies, and practices that are designed to safeguard any digital systems. That can range from computers, server, mobile devices like your cell phones, or a tablet like an iPad, or any electronic systems, networks, or data. Kind of the pillar of cybersecurity here is to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of all your digital information. So some fun facts here. Not so fun, but cyber attack, believe it or not, takes place every 39 seconds, which is quite frequent if you really think about it. Another fun fact is international law has yet to have really any specific regulations on cybercrime, so that can make leading to arrest a difficult process to do. And the last one here, human error accounts for 95% of all cyber attacks. So if you ever heard the term the human firewall, that's where it comes from. It's kind of the first line of defense in cyber attacks, is that human error and the human firewall, as I call it. So here we just have a various list of types of cyber attacks. This is far from an exhaustive list of cyber attacks. This is just some of the most common ones that you'll see. Some of them you may recognize, other of them may be foreign to you. We got social engineering, which we're going to talk on today. Spyware, cyber extortion, ransomware, I'm sure you've heard of, cyber espionage, cryptojacking and adware, financial theft, viruses and malware, and one of the biggest ones is identity fraud as well. So here we have just some statistics from the FBI Internet Crime Report in 2022. The FBI releases this report every year, just kind of detailing the various types of cyber attacks that they have been notified of, various losses. And you can see here that the older age group is targeted overwhelmingly more than the younger age group here. And the numbers here are not fully realistic. Most cyber attacks aren't even reported. So that number is far more than what's actually on the list here. But now we're going to talk about the biggest form of cyber attacks these days is social engineering, which social engineering is really a broad term for a bunch of different types of attacks. It can be an email scam, it can be a text scam. I'm sure you all have gotten them. Hey, your package is ready for pickup at UPS and there's a link. That's a phishing scam as well. You can also do it over the phone. But just kind of the generic term of social engineering is it's the act of psychological manipulation, influencing, or deceiving someone into giving up access to personal information. That can include bank accounts, credit cards, social security numbers. And what they do is these cyber criminals, they play on your emotions to try to gain your trust and try to make you give up that personal information. And back to that IC3 report, the Internet Crime Report in 2022, phishing was actually the largest category reported at just over 300,000 attacks. Again, that number is probably way more in real life. That's just the amount reported. And just put that in perspective, the second highest was personal data breach at 58,000, so there really is a big difference there. Phishing is just so big nowadays. And what personal data breach is, that's like if you say you have an account with a company, Verizon or AT&T for example, and they are part of a cyber attack and they have a data breach, and your data is part of that breach, so your email address, your password gets leaked out there and it's part of that data breach, that's what that personal data breach is. And another stat that I found cool was there was over $3 billion lost in investment money worldwide, which is quite a bit of money, kind of puts it in perspective for you. And moving on to email phishing, this is a specific type of social engineering attack that is definitely the most common. But this is where fraudulent emails are sent. They often impersonate a reputable source or organization, say a CEO of a company. The CEO, in quotes, will email you, impersonating them, trying to play on your emotions to get you to trust them. But the intent is tricking the recipient into revealing sensitive information. It can be passwords, credit cards, bank accounts, social security numbers. It'll be whatever they're after that day. These emails, they often have links or attachments that when you click on them and when you open them, it can install malicious software on your computer. It can lead you to a malicious website where you put in your password and the hacker has access to your computer, which is actually what we're going to be demonstrating today. But some red flags to watch out for when you receive one of these phishing emails: if it creates a sense of urgency or threatens you, if it requests personal or sensitive information, especially if you weren't expecting it, you weren't expecting that person to ask for sensitive information, I wouldn't give it to them. If it's too good to be true, probably is. If you get an email saying you want a free vacation to Florida for a week, it's probably too good to be true. If there's any spelling or grammar mistakes, especially if it looks unprofessional, that's also a pretty big red flag. And we'll go over these inconsistent links and email addresses as well, and the attachments. That's if you have a button or a link that says it's going to lead to a certain website, but if you hover over it, it actually will lead you to a different website than what you expect. So Facebook.com, instead of leading to Facebook, it'll lead to some website controlled by a hacker. And moving on here, we're going to do a practice email. So this is a phishing email. Can anyone identify some red flags for me here? Here's just highlighting some of the red flags. It requires advanced security. Please activate it now or you'll be locked out. And if we hover over this button, this is what I was talking about before with the inconsistent links. Turn on Facebook Protect. You would think this would lead you to Facebook.com. But you can see here, that is not Facebook.com. That is just a random string, random numbers that you would not recognize. So we'll move on here to the demonstration. Alright, so what I'm going to be showing you today is a simulated phishing attack and an example of how a hacker can compromise your login information. So what we have here is what looks like an email from Huntington Bank saying there's been suspicious activity detected on your debit card. It was from India, and it's saying my access is limited unless I confirm my information by clicking this green button here. So I'm going to go ahead and click this green button. As you can see, it takes me to an exact replica of the Huntington Bank, but in the top left hand corner here you can see it says not secure, and if we click on that it says your connection to this site is not secure. That's the first red flag. The second red flag is the website address here. It does not say huntington.com. It says what looks like a random string of numbers. But let's say I don't notice those red flags and I go over here and type in my login information. So I'm going to type in my email address. I'm going to put a password of password1234. I'm going to click login here. And now you can see it redirects me to the real Huntington Bank website. It says huntington.com, and if we look, there's now a secured lock icon. If we click on that, it says connection is secure here. And now what I'm going to do is switch over to the hacker point of view. And what you can see here is that it has found that username that I typed in and that password. So this is a perfect example of how hackers can deceive you into giving up your passwords a lot of times without you even knowing it. So that's a perfect example of what a hacker would do. They'll send you an email like that, and it's called credential napping. They will grab those credentials from you and use that against you to log into your bank. And this is a perfect example of where multi-factor authentication really comes in play. I'm sure we're all familiar with it. We'll go over it more in detail later in the presentation. But that multi-factor authentication will make it so the hacker not only needs to get your password, but also that second factor authentication in order to access your bank account. Why should you really care about this? Well, like I mentioned before, the ultimate goal of cyber criminals is financial gain. That's really what they're after. They're after your money. They're after your investment accounts. They're after your social security number. That's mainly used for identity fraud. If they get your social security number, they can open bank accounts, they can open loans in your name without you knowing it. That's why it's important to monitor your credit reports all the time to make sure no one's using that against you. But like I said, cyber attacks, they really lead to financial losses. This can happen through direct theft, ransomware attacks, or fraud. And proper cybersecurity measures, proper practices in place will help prevent these attacks from happening to you. So, like I said, it can happen to you. And when you think of a hacker, you probably think of someone, in their mom's basement with this big computer screen, green text, typing away, I just got the nuclear launch codes, right? This Chinese hacker. That cannot be further from the truth. What they really are, they're called script kiddies. That basically just means they have very little technical experience. And what they do is they go online, they go to Google, and they search automated tools. They search, how do I hack? And you can run these automated tools without any technical knowledge and be able to hack someone pretty easily. And they come in all shapes and sizes. You'll always think they target, these big corporations like Tesla, or these wealthy people like Elon Musk. But that is also not true. What they do is they would rather target 1,000 individuals, hoping 2 to 3 respond. That is much easier than trying to hack a big corporation that has much more security in place. So they just kind of spam it out there, hoping a few people respond. You never think it could happen to you until it's too late. You always think, I've got nothing to hide, so why would I be a target for cyber criminals? Well, that may be true, but like I said, they're after your money. They're after your social security number. Because you're just a citizen in the United States, you have a social security number. They want it, and they're going to try to get it from you. So moving on here. What you can do if you receive a phishing email. So the first thing I always do is call the individual, call the business that emailed you directly to verify that it was them that sent the email to you. If they say, hey, I didn't send that email, it's spam and you should just delete it. You can also check the email address and the link like we showed earlier for any variations from what you would expect. Another thing, an important thing you can do is go to the website directly instead of using the link in the email. So Huntington, instead of clicking the link that takes you to Huntington, you should go to Google and type huntington.com and go there directly. That way the website's safe. It's not leading you to somewhere malicious. Better safe than sorry. I always say just delete it. And if you're part of a business, you can report it to your IT department. They can block the sender. They can filter out that email address for any future attacks. So what can you do to protect yourself? One of the biggest things is passwords. Using strong passwords and not reusing passwords on every site is very important. But along with that, MFA, multi-factor authentication, like I mentioned before, is probably the most important thing you can do to protect your accounts. I'm sure you've all done it. You try to log into a bank account and it sends you a 6-digit code to your cell phone, and you got to type in that code in order to verify your account, verify who you are. That just adds an extra step. It makes it harder for the hackers to access your account. So they need to get that password, and then they need to get into your cell phone and they need to get that code from you before it expires. Often those codes expire within 10 minutes, and if that code expires, it's no longer valid. They gotta log in again. That can also be a red flag. If you have multi-factor enabled on an account and you get a code when you didn't try to log into your account, that means someone has tried to access your account. They have your username and password, so you should change that password immediately. Another important thing you can do on your computer is using antivirus programs and updating your software regularly. Software, every day there's new vulnerabilities. There's some other way hackers discover to get into your account and into your computer. So keeping stuff updated is super important as well. And if you do fall victim to a cyber attack, if you have data backed up, you can always recover it, you can always keep it. So that's another important step. You should also not give out any personal information unless it's absolutely necessary, even if it's to a close friend or to a family member. They could be impersonating a close friend or family member and you may not know it. You just see the name, you recognize it, you're like, oh, I know this person. They're just asking for it, let's give it to them. I would be very careful of that. It's better to do it in person if you're going to give out personal information like that. That way you can trust the source that you're giving it to. You should also avoid any risky behavior online. So this can include opening links from social media. I always relate it to Wikipedia. Anyone can go on Wikipedia, write anything they want on there, put anything they want on the internet. So that could be a malicious link, that could be a malicious image even on your computer, that if you click on it, it'll lead you somewhere that you don't want to be. And if you're out and about and you see free or public Wi-Fi, say you're at Starbucks and they have a Starbucks guest Wi-Fi and you connect to it, you should always use a VPN if you're on public Wi-Fi, because what that does is it encrypts your network traffic. It encrypts everything you're doing on your computer. So even if a hacker does access your computer, they won't be able to see it. But what they do with these public Wi-Fi networks is they actually replicate the network. So say it's Starbucks guest, they'll create an identical network that also says Starbucks guest, and you unknowingly connect your phone, your laptop to it, and now you're connected to the hacker's network and they have control over everything you're seeing, everything you're doing, and they can see everything. That's why it's important to use a VPN. If it's encrypted, they still can't see it, even if you do connect to it unknowingly. And the most important thing you can do to protect yourself is just to stay up to date on the best security practices. This field is ever changing. There's something new comes out every single day. And if you just stay up to date and you know what to do and how to protect yourself, that is one of the best things you can do. So here's how W3 can help you. We can do a security consultation. So we'll sit down with you, go over your digital life, your various accounts, see what we can do to make it better, go over your computer, any programs we want to put on there or take off of there. We can help with that. We also have managed security services, incident response and recovery. So say you do fall victim to a cyber attack, you get a virus on your computer, we can help remedy that and get rid of that virus and change all your accounts, make sure they're secure after that attack takes place. Data backup, like I mentioned before, is super important. So you always have, if you have family pictures or friends stored on your computer, that should always be backed up. Not even just if a cyber attack takes place. If your computer crashes, those pictures are gone. So it's always important to have a backup. And we can do security awareness training. It's the most important, just being aware of what's going on and how to protect yourself.